everybody. Welcome to our live of the week. Something I believe is that my mother is a firm believer in the fact that physicians, and even if you're not a physician, you can live your best life, you can live your dream life, and still have your dream business. And so today I have a doctor with me who shows that in every single area of her life. And I'm so glad that I have the opportunity and honor to interview her. But before you get into that, I'm going to introduce myself. For those of you guys who don't know me, hi, my name is Cheta. I am Dr. Una's first daughter. I am 17 years old and I am the current head of the EntreMD merch division. That is entremd.com/merch. Get your merch if you haven't gotten it. But today I get to introduce Dr. Erica Bove. How about you go ahead and
Hi.
introduce yourself?
Hi. Thank you, Cheta, so much for having me. It's an honor. So I am Dr. Erica Bove. I am a member of the EntreMD Business School. I have been for a year and a half now. I'm a fertility specialist by training and also the CEO and founder of Love and Science Fertility, which is a fertility coaching practice where I help female physicians build their families with confidence, compassion, and community. And I love the business school, and I absolutely love the merch because on a daily basis, it reminds me just who I am as part of this amazing community and that all things are possible.
That's so good. Okay, so since you mentioned the merch, I'm just going to start with, so what's your favorite merch and then why is it your favorite?
Okay, so my favorite merch is this bag. And actually, I realized I don't even have the coffee mug, which is also one of my top three favorite merches. It's in my cabinet. Okay, so this beautiful and high quality bag, I know the text is backwards, but it says EntreMD Business School, Dream Life and Dream Business. You can see it's like big, it holds things. And, if you don't know me personally, part of my setup right now for my dream life and my dream business is that I am rooted in the Albany, New York area, and I'm divorced. My children are 12 and 10. And every other week when I don't have them, I travel 3 hours away to the University of Vermont where I stay for 6 days at a time. And I work as a fertility specialist at that university. And that is a conscious choice. I do it on purpose. But the point is, when you work for a big university hospital system, you park in a certain place. I'm very grateful that my parking is only a 5-minute walk away from my clinic. But sometimes there's a lot of stuff you got to bring in. You got to bring in your lunch and you got to bring in your change of yoga clothes if you're going to go to yoga after after your work day to make sure you leave on time. Like all the different stuff that is up, your work clogs, whatever it is. I feel like I always have a lot of stuff. And so the cool thing about this bag is it's high quality, so I'm not concerned it's going to break. And I feel like a disruptor. Dr. Una always says, be a disruptor. And like when I walk in the hospital as a physician and I have this bag that says Dream Life, Dream Business, EntreMD Business School, it's not just a reminder to myself, but it's a message to other physicians that they're not stuck either, right? They can live their dream lives and have their dream business at the same time. It might take some creativity, it might take some community, it might take, an investment in that next phase of their own lives. However, it's possible. And so I feel like a massive disruptor when I go into the hospital with this bag. I don't know. I think the symbolism is just so profound.
That's really good. And so, fun fact about that bag, actually, that was a limited edition for that specific
Yeah.
event only.
Yeah.
So, if you're like, "Oh my gosh, I want that bag," I'm sorry, guys, I apologize. But there are at the merch store different things that you can get. We have something similar, which says, "There's no imagination police, and you can dream big." But if you go to entremd.com/merch, we have all the different types of things that you can get. Look at her putting her hat on.
Yeah. Isn't this visor nice? I mean, it's May right now in upstate New York, so I don't quite need it just yet, but almost. But it's super fashionable and keeps my skin looking nice and young. So, yeah, this is a cool one too. What else do I got here? I have this beautiful shirt that I just got,
Oh,
which is,
yes.
yeah, built for this. And it even has, once you're in the EntreMD Business School, you can actually get things that are personalized to you, which is amazing. So I have my last name on the back, which my kids thought was super cool. And I also have this shirt that says, I am the new normal, which is
Yes.
super cool. So, I know some things are limited edition, some things are sort of seasonal and creative, but I think the point is that every time that I have something that says the EntreMD Business School, it just, again, it reminds me who I am. I'm a part of this unicorn community, and it reminds me that every day I can do impactful things that are outside the realm of what I used to think I couldn't do.
That's really good. Okay, so you talked about your dream business as kind of the whole point of, the live and everything. So how about you tell us the journey of building your dream business? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, sure. So, I've always been a dreamer. I have big ideas, and I've also been really always interested in what motivates people. Like I tell people I went to med school to be a psychiatrist because I was always super interested in the human condition. I was actually a great books major in undergrad because I love to write and read and understand, theology and philosophy and all the, why we're here, right? That's always been a big motivator for me. Um, but when I got to medical school and I started to do my psychiatry rotations, I was like, oh, I don't really think this is for me necessarily. Like, I like talking, but I like working with my hands and I like women's health. So I decided to go into OBGYN. And within that, specifically reproductive endocrinology and infertility, I was very grateful to match. So, once I got into that space, I started to realize that even though I was doing my best, sort of in the clinical setting, there were gaps. Like my patients were having a hard time making these critical decisions about their fertility. And once I was in coaching school at the same time, right, it's sort of I drank the coaching Kool-Aid. I started to connect the dots that I thought what my patients really needed to make these critical decisions was some of the coaching tools, that I was learning in my coaching school. And I'd done parenting coaching, relationship coaching. I really was a believer in all the ways that coaching can help. But I had this idea. I was like, I really think I can transform the space. I just have never taken a business class in my entire life. Like I don't even know where to start. So I really, if I'm gonna do, like I'm a recovering perfectionist, I like to say. So if I'm gonna do something, I want to do it well. I want to start off on the right foot from the beginning. I don't want to just like plow through and make all these mistakes that could have been prevented if I had just been a little bit more thoughtful. And I will say I do really well with accountability. I do really well with structure and mentors and groups and things like that. So, right around the time I was starting to feel really stuck in my professional life and my career, and I had this big idea. I'm like, I believe I can transform the fertility space for professional women, especially physicians. I knew where I wanted to get, but I didn't really know how to do it without some support. And so that's when I started to look around at like different coaching programs and different schools. And, I interviewed some coaches as well. And that's really when I said, okay, I really think Dr. Una's school is what's going to help me not just build my dream business, but build my dream life along the way. Like I said, like, my kids were 10 and 8 when I signed up for this. And I'm like, if I really have another good 10 years, I don't want to say I wasted all that time just so hyper focused on the business that they've graduated and now my business is set, but I've missed all that time in the meantime. And when I looked at Dr. Una and who she is and the life that she lives, I realized, it really is possible. And I think when I look at my own mentors and who I want to be my mentors, I look and I'm like, are they blazing the trail that I want to blaze? And when I saw Dr. Una, the answer was yes. So that's why I decided to sign up and build my dream business and my dream life at the same time.
That's amazing. So shout out to the business school in that case. Okay, so how did you make your dream life possible?
Oh, well, so that's a great question. So, when I was an intern, my chief resident said two words. She said, perspective, priorities, right? Perspective, priorities. So I've always been a person who liked to keep those top of mind because I think if we have a sense of perspective, if we have our priorities in line, then we can make decisions that are in alignment with those things. Now, the hard part is, especially about clinical medicine, is sometimes there's factors out of your control where it really is hard to make decisions that are in alignment with your values, especially when you're being asked to do things that, are really beyond what any human could possibly do. So, I think that I've always been a person who's like, okay, am my actions matching my values and am I being the best mom I can be? Am I being the best person I can be? How's my spiritual life doing? Like all those questions are always top of mind for me. So when I heard about Dr. Una and the fact that she routinely has people evaluate the 9 core areas of her life and how they're doing in those ways, I'd already experienced from coaching that when you have an access point, not only does it up level that aspect of your life, but every other area of your life improves as well. And that's the way really I think it should be. It shouldn't just be like this one dominant area while everything else suffers. It's like, okay, I'm in the best shape I've been in, I'm lifting weights. I have great relationships with my children, like my business is thriving, my academic job is going well. Like when I think about it, I wanted it to be like this sort of whole spectrum thing. And that's Dr. Una's philosophy. So I love the fact that we routinely look at those 9 core areas of life and, it's like, what do we need to take on to make that happen? What do we need to let go of? Who do we need to reach out to be for accountability? Like all those things, it just sort of happens at the same time as you're looking at your dream business. So it's not, things are happening in sync with each other and not out of sync.
Okay, that's really good. So I have another question, right? So I saw you recently at the Business Makeover Mastermind, that we had in Atlanta, and I was in the room and I was watching, and it's like a really tight knit community that that everyone supports each other. I was watching if someone starts crying, you guys are hugging, or like when they have a big win, everyone starts clapping and everything. So in what ways has EBS supported you in building your dream life?
Wow, that's such a good question. Like, I don't even really know where to start. I can start with the person who invited me to be part of the EBS. So her name is Dr. Carolina Swaldo. She's also a fertility specialist who kind of understands the challenges of what it is to provide good care to women in the current system. And she knew about my idea, and she was like, you know what? I think this could really help you provide some structure. And so it was that first invitation to join, right? And then, I obviously I got the buy-in of my children. We all pressed the submit button together. I decided to do this on my older son's birthday because I thought this is the birth of a new chapter of my life, a new self from here on out. So again, you can tell I like symbolism. Everything was very symbolic and intentional. And so then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna do what Dr. Una says. Like I vetted her as a mentor. She gets results. When I got the introductory email, it was like, okay, sign up for the Facebook group. These are the top modules you need to listen, to. And I was like, okay, check, check, check. Like I got it. And so then I started going to the Wednesday night meetings that we have that are live, and just the energy there, the collective support. And then the CEO power hours. Like I remember very pointedly the leader of that CEO Power Hour was like, okay, so you got this idea and people are going to start wanting to work with you. And so how are they going to pay you and how are they going to schedule? And I was like, oh, how are they going to pay? And then like, no, no, we got you. Like, this is what you do. And this is how you set it up. And at that point, I didn't even have an assistant or anything. It was just me. And I will tell you, Teta, like, I'm a little bit allergic to technology. It's getting better the more coaching I do and the more like, more I get coached on technology. But sometimes I'm just like, oh, not another tech thing. So it was really the group being like, no, you can do this. You just need this account and that account, and they link together. And then that's really where you need to start, because then somebody can actually choose to work with you and sign up virtually. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a good start. And then from that on, then I just started to build it out. Right. And so, and I had done a few things before joining the business school. Like I had my LLC and I had my business bank account because I had this idea. I talked with my accountant, so we'd set up a few things, but really, really minimal. And then Dr. Una started talking about visibility. So I was like, okay, well, I think I need some visibility to make this work. And I remember there was a week I had jury duty. And so I blocked off that week, from everything else. And I went Monday morning, and my jury duty, like I wasn't needed because something happened and whatever. And I had an entire week just to work on my business. And I was like, this is a gift from God. I'm going to spend this time. I'm going to do what Dr. Una says. And, the more I did what Dr. Una said, like the more things just worked out. So yes, it is following the steps of the revenue generating framework and all those things, but it's also just having this tremendous, I mean, I can't even tell you, even today, like this random Friday, I cannot tell you how many EBS connections I've made. A random text saying that I'm her vision board for sales calls. I did a podcast interview. I was a guest on a podcast for an endocrinologist in California. Just I had, coaching calls with clients and asked for testimonials, asking, and one of my clients said, you're such a gem. Like the world needs you. Like where can I put this testimonial to spread the word? Dr. Swaldo actually reached out to me to say, hey, can I send one of my patients to you? So, I just feel like EBS has become the fabric of my life. It's, my children respect the time that I need on Wednesday nights to carve this out. I was on CEO Power Hour today, like in the middle of being in a clinical meeting, in the middle of, I'm going to go to yoga later. Like, I feel like there's a way in which that EBS just becomes who you are. And you realize that not only are there vision boards for you, and so you look at them and you just ask them, hey, how did you do XYZ? And they are very generous to tell you. I even found an email from December of 2023, because right now I'm thinking about, social media and like increasing my presence. And somebody sent me her, job description and interview questions for a social media, a manager. And I was like, oh my goodness, like there's just like so many things that speed up the time to what would normally take me like 5 hours to do. Like in an email, it's just done, right? I was updating my podcast pitching template this week, and that exists in the Commonwealth, and I took the one that that Dr. Una uses, and I adapted it to myself, and I'm about to, with my assistant, we're about to send out a lot of podcast pitches. So there's just all these different ways in which it's like, how would I do XYZ? either somebody tells you directly how to do it or they point you in the right direction to make it happen. So it really accelerates like what you do. And I also wanted to mention, I mean, when I started the EBS, I was mired in overwhelm. And Dr. Una always said, we don't do overwhelm. And I was like, what does she mean by that? Like, I've lived my entire life. Like, that's the only way I'm motivated to do anything is by living in this constant state of overwhelm. But what she really means, it comes back to that perspective and priorities. When you know what your top three moves are and you can delegate what doesn't need to be yours, then you just put it in your CEO calendar and then you just execute on that thing. And so now I really understand what and I will say maybe it was like 6 or 8 months ago when I really feel like I ditched the overwhelm, which is like huge because think of how much energy we spend just like being overwhelmed, which we could be putting towards other things. But really now I just look at my schedule and I'm like, okay, like what is it today and where am I going to fit those things in and what are my top three priorities and what can I delegate? And since I've adopted that strategy and I encourage other people to do the same and they hold me accountable as well, then you just act, right? There's no hesitation. You're just like, okay, now I'm just here to work and get it done. And you can just tell like it's affected, even my thought process for how I approach the things I need to do.
Yeah, that's really good. So I'm gonna ask like a slight follow-up question. It wasn't on the questions I
Yeah.
had for you, but you briefly mentioned like how you're thinking about social media and upping up your presence. So how has like, EBS helped you with, visibility when it comes to that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think first of all, understanding the importance of visibility, but then understanding like what channels are you visible in? Like, for instance, like speaking. Like, I've always been a natural speaker. I always say it's because my parents had me read at church every Sunday when I was a kid. I wasn't afraid to like be in front of a lot of people. But I don't really think I realized the impact that speaking can have in terms of showing people who you are, displaying yourself as the expert in your field, and also, potentially opening the doors for other speaking opportunities, potentially reaching people who can send you clients and maybe even directly getting clients. And so now I really seek out those opportunities, not just to be like, oh, I like speaking and I used to just be like, okay, I'm a fellow or I'm a new attending, check, check, it's good on my resume. But now I actually see it as the gateway into so many other possibilities. So I seek out those opportunities. Like even recently, I'm sponsoring my 20-year college reunion. And when I said, yes, I'll sponsor, I said, and I'd really like to give a talk. And I'm like, I'm not sure if anybody's ever done that before, but I was like, hey, like I'm, sort of really vested in this mission and people need to hear what I have to say about aging and fertility. I'd like to talk to the 42-year-olds and the 37-year-olds and what venue can we use? And now like those wheels are turning because I was like, yes, here I am and I want to make the biggest impact. And through that, it's speaking. So that's one thing that I have learned in terms of visibility. The other thing is like really understanding that social media is really important. And Dr. Una is an introvert. I'm an introvert. I really resonate in that way. I've learned to be extroverted, but I'd rather just go and hide than network and be a presence. But I think when you realize that people are suffering because they can't hear your message, you realize that you find the courage, you find overcoming the fear because what's worse, me being a little afraid or somebody not hearing my message? Like to me, somebody not hearing my message is worse than me, sort of being afraid and staying in my fear and not putting myself out there. So that's what motivates me. And that's what I learned from EBS is like, there are so many people who are still suffering. And unless they know about you, they're going to continue to have pain. And because you have the solution to solve their pain, then they can actually be helped when they know about you and decide to work with you. So, that's been really helpful. I used to think that like promoting myself was like, some sort of egoistical exercise, but now I really see it as serving, right? Dr. Una always says, we're here to serve. And so as I think about this as my mission here on this planet, it's more like if I don't get myself out there, then I can only serve to a certain extent and I can serve less well. So really to help the most amount of people and in the best way, I need to be visible. So speaking, social media, asking referral sources, asking my current clients, asking who their friends are and if they need help, asking for testimonials, like really just like, and there's no even hesitation anymore. It's just like, it just almost like comes out naturally. I have one client who is like, you can text me daily until I send you my testimonial. I'm like, fantastic. That's great. Like, so it's just, I don't know. You just see how if you stay small, if you stay hidden, nobody can really be helped. And so finding ways to get over that fear, that's one thing that EBS has helped me with. And writing, I mean, I'm gonna write a book. I just signed up for a writing conference this summer, where I'm gonna take my kids. It's like this combined adult and child camp, and they're gonna do their activities, and I'm gonna do my writing workshop. And part of why I'm doing that is to start my first book. And so, and lots of people in EBS have written books, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no worries, you just self-publish, you get started." And so, I think it opens the gateway for other things. Like I'm now, a part of documentaries and national task force for infertility. It just the opportunities keep coming. I was interviewed by Vermont Public Radio just this week. All these things are happening because you realize, it's almost like I have a responsibility to use my voice in a way that before I was just like, oh, I'm a bother. But now it's like, no, if I'm not loud and proud, then nobody's going to be
That's
helped.
so true. Okay, and then so there's Dr. Erica's story. Then there's also a book called The Visibility Formula, which Dr. Una
Yeah.
wrote. So if you have, you have
Yes.
any questions or you're concerned and you're like, okay, how do I be, more visible and things like that? This book will most certainly help you. I think, a lot of people in the EntreMD Business School can definitely attest to that. So Visibility Formula.
Yes, I read that book, and that was really a game changer for me because it really, like I said, I just do what Dr. Una says and it works out. Like that's, it's like, it sounds so simple. You put in the reps, you put in the work, but like that book is real gold in terms of, and that's actually part of why I decided to join the business school in general, is I read the EntreMD method. And when I realized there's somebody who understood me, I had ideas, I wanted to help, I wanted to serve, but sometimes physicians in particular have blocks to entrepreneurship. And so when I read that book, it really helped me to understand that Dr. Una was the person who was going to help me, start this process and continue this process. And then when I read the visibility formula, it really solidified a lot of the concepts and gave me ideas to spring into action. And we all know it's all about taking
Yes,
action
that
in
is so
EBS.
true. Okay, so next question I have for you is what do you say to the person who is, let's say, afraid of starting their journey, right, to make their dream business or dream life? What would you say to that person?
Mhm. Oh gosh. I mean, it's always like let your faith be stronger than your fear. I think that I would ask the why. I think when I was in those shoes and I was thinking about, the investment of EBS, I sort of asked the questions. I was like, okay, what were my concerns at that time? One concern was I was, an employed coach. So I had my employed physician job, but my employed coach job. And I was worried about breaking free and offending the person that I was working with. But she always knew I had this idea. Like when I started out, I had been very clear, like, hey, I have this idea. Do I do this? Do I work with you? And she was like, okay, yeah, be with me for a little bit, but you're probably going to leave. So I kind of had the courage to I needed to have the courage to stand up on my own. And that was probably my biggest obstacle to joining, was that I was like, I didn't want to offend anybody. But again, playing small serves nobody. And I think the more authentic we can be, the truth sets you free. And so, because this is my calling in particular, I needed to follow that call. So, that's one thing, is sort of where's the fear coming from? The time commitment. When I talked to Makita in the business school, I was like, oh yeah, no big deal. I can do that. Like, that's not a problem. You make time for the important things. And I always find like things like this, like growth, and learning and community, like those things are fun for me. So I was not worried about that. And then the financial investment, I think it is an investment, but when I looked at it, I was like, you know what, like it's all how you think about it. Like if the return on investment is going to be 100, well, I say 100x because that's what I wanted it to be, like even 10x, I've already in 16, 17 months, I've already made back so much more than what I invested in the first place. And it just continues to grow. And it's also, it's not even about the financial return. It is, but it's also about the person I'm becoming, just being more confident, setting more boundaries, making decisions that really affect my dream life. All those things, I think were a lot shakier before. And when you're surrounded by people who routinely do these bold things, make these decisions in a respectful way, not like, we're not like cowboys in EBS, like we're respectful and kind. But I think, unless we're clear about our dream life and our dream business at the same time, like what's the point? And that we serve and we earn at the same time. So those are the things, like if you're not sure about, like, if you can succeed doing this dream life, dream business thing, there are so many walking examples of people. Like I've not ever seen anybody not succeed, like in EBS. Like I've never seen somebody join and have them come out a worse person than they were before. Like every single person who joins EBS comes out a stronger, more evolved version of themselves with like 100 plus more friends in the meantime. So, I think the return on investment is very high. It's all relative when you think about the big picture. I'm an example. I mean, I'm like, oh, how can I, do well as a coach? Like, it's never going to be as successful as my physician income, blah, 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 whatever your brain tells you. But then you start to see the possibilities, and that by serving at a high level, you really can do well financially. And at the same time, I mean, I was at my, younger son's track meet earlier this week. I've done like so many important, I'm going to yoga tonight. I went to Orange Theory Fitness yesterday. I pray every single morning. Like, all these things are in place. I eat healthy food. I sleep at least 8 hours a night. Like, all these things are happening. I'm going to my niece's first communion tomorrow morning in Vermont. Like, and I've sort of been very blessed to be able to work all these things out in a way that allows me to be present to my family, which is my, really my number one priority right now, is to be present to them. But when you're surrounded by so many vision boards of people who are doing the same thing, and taking more vacation, and having more impact and providing more value, and just upleveling their relationships, it's really easy to swim in that water because it's just the norm. Even though in isolation it might be like, this is so hard, nobody else is doing this, I don't have any examples. Like, when every single day you're getting text messages, and you're part of groups and CEO Power Hour, and we celebrate the wins on EBS. Like, it's like it is the normal. And where you're like, okay, well, like I said before, like, I have these vision boards of people who are doing things that are stretching for me, but then you also realize that you're a vision board for other people, and that's inspiring as well. It's a very inspirational experience, I
That's
guess
really,
I'd
really,
say.
really good. And so last but not least, where can people find you? If people want to, get to know you more, or, how can they reach out to you? Where can they find you?
Absolutely. So the most comprehensive place is my website, loveandsciencefertility.com. Under Love and Science Fertility, you can find me on social, so Instagram, Facebook. I also have a profile on LinkedIn. I have a podcast called Love and Science Fertility. I have a Mother's Day episode this week that I think is very powerful. I put a lot of my heart and soul into that episode, especially if you're struggling to become a mother and that hasn't happened yet. How do we approach this Mother's Day with grace and self-compassion? And also, let's see, my email newsletter. So some people send me a message directly through my website that they are interested in working with me. Other people directly book a call. Some people send me a DM on Instagram. There's so many ways to find me, but I think the most comprehensive place is the website. But please do listen to the podcast. It's really impactful. I've gotten a lot of great feedback, and I really, it's my most creative endeavor right now because like I said, my message needs to reach people.
That's absolutely amazing. So I had so much fun interviewing you. This has been an absolutely amazing experience getting to know you and getting to learn more about what you do. And to those of you who are watching, make sure that you follow her. I believe that her link will be put inside of the chat. But also, if you're interested in hearing more about the different type of doctors, there was a book by Dr. Una yet again that came out earlier this year called Made for More. So there's Made for More 1 and there's Made for More 2. And it just has all the stories of all the different doctors, the things that they've gone through inside of those books. And it was the doctors who wrote it by themselves. So it's absolutely amazing. And I am so, how do I say this word? I'm so honored and I'm so glad that I was able to interview you. This has been an absolutely amazing time. So is there anything else you'd like to say to all of the people who are watching?
You're never stuck. I think the common theme in EBS is people felt like they were stuck, and then they realized there was a different way, and even a better way than the way that they were living before. And so if you're thinking about taking a chance on EBS, you will not regret it. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. So you are not stuck. There are so many ways not to be stuck, and a big part of that is
That's so
joining
good.
EBS.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching.